The violence in this game is absurdly hilarious. I mean, I nearly lost it when I did this. The shock value is very enjoyable, and it gets my own imagination going as to how I could kill something in the most creative way possible. I mean, I would love to see an adult version, a movie of the cartoon Roadrunner, because that was pretty much creative killing. Boxed up as a kid's cartoon, this is kind of no different. But how is this game good? If you watch YouTube content regarding this game, you would get the impression that it is amazing. I will tell you right now that it is far from amazing. In fact, it's quite poorly made. It has a lot of problems that I will go into in this game study. So you may think my next statement is absurd because I will go on to say why I will never sell this game. And I am really fond of it. And I will play it again one day, even though I cannot complete it due to a game-breaking glitch. Violence, pain, brutality. These are the first words that come to mind when playing Wolverine. The intentions of the game are obvious. A power fantasy, release. Make no mistake, Wolverine is a lovely man. In the cutscenes, he shows that he is all for making the right decisions. He just has to kill all the bad guys to do it. He is basically a dog that may belong to a tribe and will die for that tribe, is selfless, and will dive towards death to protect its family. Seriously, he's chopping people up left, right and centre. These poor fellas don't really mind dying, which hey, I know this is a game, but I am getting to the age where I need the enemies to show some fear or self-preservation, because I can't really see the power fantasy fully realised. I need the enemies to fear me a little. I myself am a lovely person, but somewhere deep inside me, I am sure I have an evil side. A lot of us guys do. We need it, just in case there's a war or something, and we need to go and fight. This is what I call a budget game made with love. In other words, love and no money is normally better than money with no love. In the mid-90s, I used to collect X-Men cards. The gateway character was definitely Wolverine. He must have been the most loved character in the franchise. Why? Well, because Wolverine is a catalyst for male desires. He is strong, a bit emotional, unchained, and has good morals. He reminds me of Rambo, the first film, First Blood. Someone very capable yet highly vulnerable at the same time. For some reason, this type of figure resonates with men. He is rough around the edges and rebellious, like a rock star. The interesting twist is being brought up or growing up in a negative environment. This tends to make a certain character good yet unstable. Equally interesting is a naturally bad person brought up in a good environment. This person could become, say, a serial killer. These are not hard and fast rules of reality, just character archetypes. So you know that he is a bad guy with the best intentions. Now, when I talk about all of this, I mean Hugh Jackman's Wolverine. It's an archetypical impression more than anything. Hugh has done a fantastic job of just being himself. The new game is somewhat like this game. This is a linear game. This is a brutal game. This game has upgrades. This game has levels. This game has a likable Wolverine archetype. So this is a similar game in vein. I'm not saying the new game will have upgrades. I mean, I don't know, but that kind of stuff is generally mandatory nowadays. The graphics are totally ugly. The Unreal 3 engine was not very good on the PS3. Horrible bloom lighting which gives an overexposed look when projecting light onto pale hues. Messy texture, warping, and poor performance on the PS3. The PS3 is a console that had a lot of ugly games. We have seen a resurgence in the PS1 genre graphic wise. Now we are seeing PS2 like graphics with upcoming games like Sprawl Zero, which looks fantastic, by the way. Will the PS3 get the same treatment? It was kind of that era where we thought we could go ahead and do realistic graphics. Spoilers, it wasn't. But it is my favourite console generation. The PS3 exclusives always looked amazing, so I think they will all age well. As for Wolverine though, nah, it's hard to look at, but who cares? It is a great time, and even though it looks the way it does, think of it like a not very attractive friend that you are just kind of fond of. The moveset starts off very simple and ends quite simple. That's not a bad thing. Most players never go beyond a simple combo playstyle. The more complex combo set often alienates most players. The problem is always in the enemy design in regards to timing and the methods of attack. There are attempts to make hacking and slashing less effective with certain enemies, but it really isn't enough to make the combat system deeper. What works in Wolverine is just hacking and slashing. You'll be using combos to kill things as fast as possible, not to survive. Well, not on medium difficulty, that is. I have beaten this game on hard years ago, and I remember it being fairly much like medium. I just had to be more responsible. I used to box and have sparred some big guys where one punch does some real damage. So you have to move around like a male premantis trying to get a date. Yes, weird comparison, but to me that's the mark of a good game. Easy. Someone lighter than you can just push them back and trade at will. Medium. Someone your size that you can trade and fight for position. And hard. A heavyweight that you have to treat like pin the tail on the lion. Wolverine has a parry move that is nice, but not utilized much because it's simply not needed. It should be needed. All moves should be needed, but that's not what happens. The problem is all you need is square button. You could complete 99% of the game just by using square or light attack. It's not a good look and it shows very lazy game design. However, that's not the idea of the game. It is simply an addition to the collectible universe of Wolverine, and I must say, it's still very much worth it, as the game's intentions are mostly good and might be the best you can get. That is, until the new Insomniac game releases. Game rhythm. I'm a sucker for a game that has rhythm. This is a game that has a good flowing rhythm. It's like music. The game will have an area where you fight, enemies get introduced in a predictable way, and you get through them in a timely fashion. Then we move to a puzzle or a hallway section where you're looking around. The character is always moving at a certain rate. The game flows, and I love how it flows. This keeps me going. I am always trying to level up and choose something. This is a game where time can just pass. I have all of these X-Men cards and comics. They are prized possessions. I should never sell them. I don't think they are worth anything, but even then. I have never been someone who really cares about my past, my childhood. I thought it silly to let that define me as an adult, but I have begun to change my mind. I always tell myself that I am an artist, and artists don't let opinions steer their work. Should I apply that to adulthood? Well, I am in my mid-40s now, and perhaps I am past my adult phase. Maybe now I am entering a new phase where I am learning that being that adult wasn't a good time, and maybe now is the time to embrace silly things in life, as I won't be around forever. So much to celebrate from that past, so let's start with the early 90s TV show. God, I loved this show when I was young. You have no idea. It was my first time seeing a cartoon or animated series where characters grow from episode to episode. They somewhat had an arc. Most cartoons sort of reset when a new episode starts, but not X-Men. It was like a soap opera that I could enjoy. Nowadays, maybe people are spoiled for choice. These universes are well represented currently. But back then, this wasn't the case, so it really stood out. This show boosted my card collecting craze. It wasn't just me, it was every boy in school. Wolverine is a person who is, as I described earlier, a troubled soul and cares deeply for those who are around him. He is responsible for those souls. Yet in the show, he is always having a hard time. He has a few one-liners, and well, this show is PG, but his reactiveness, his aggression or potential of darkness is still evident. The lunge. The lunge is the most used move in the game. It is how the game defines itself, and without it, the game would have suffered. I always thought a lunge was this. However, it is actually this, and it is the defining feature of this game. I recently played Doom 2016, and that game has something called glory kills. These two features are fairly similar. It's a snap, a quick punch that takes you from one place and puts you to another. I really like this lunge move, and I think a lot could be done with it. This game didn't expand on this amazingly simple idea. It stays very simple. You could not have the lunge work with a fixed camera. There is one spot in the game, it's a boss battle where you are avoiding a sniper, and the camera is fixed, and the lunge is just odd to operate. It feels off. I would have added damage in between the area you lunge from and the target in kind of like upgrades. Like a tornado effect that you could upgrade to. And Wolverine could have done like a corkscrew movement to the target. But the player will get quite comfortable with this move and will happily use it to the end. When things get overwhelming in one spot, the player can simply leap to another. The game has secrets that are not that secret. Nothing is truly hidden. Often upgrades are just put right in front of you. The game is not interested in getting the player to run around one area for too long. Level design has been kept extremely straightforward, and that is okay. You will find static upgrades, enhancements, and special Wolverine figures that represent additional challenges. Like I mentioned earlier, my last video was about Doom 2016, and this game is so similar in a lot of ways it's not funny. Basically, these games all run on a bit of a template, whether that is a programmatic template, if that's a word, or a documented template. The game designers just have to put things in areas on the map and place those objects into a list or an array. All these linear games are the same, they all follow similar patterns.
You don't call, you don't write. How else am I supposed to get you?
This game is a movie game. It's different from the movie, but a few scenes from the movie make it over to the game. Watching the actual film, the opening of the film is awesome, showing how Wolverine and Sabretooth developed their killer instinct and how they diverged in their personalities. This game takes its own direction, but these movie games are often asset reformats. Project alterations are quite common. The cutscenes are where a lot of the work went. They are in-game scenes and Hugh Jackman voices Wolverine, which makes this game worth admission alone. He was a fantastic man and he is a good man. I wish him all the success in the world. I know I don't need to, but all I can say is the only thing you can hope for in a button masher are enemies that stop you advancing. Impedance is so important. Button mashers are basically the battle between the player wanting to smash their way through the game and the developers trying to gently suggest that they should not. This game starts off quite boring. The enemies are simple and you are basically going through the motions. You are getting upgrades and stuff, but you probably don't care because it's not that hard anyway. You're always on the verge of dying but never quite die. The experience feels overly optimized. Even these big guys are simple and you can use simple patterns to overcome them. Frightfully simple. It's not until a third into the game that you will have to use your brain during combat. These shield guys are the first enemy to give any real resistance, but these really are the only enemy that will test you, making me rethink my approach to situations they're involved in. Do not expect well-tuned gameplay throughout. It is a B game. That's what these games are like, and I reckon many are happy with that. I mean, we have all seen how much fun it is for most of us to simply scroll on a screen on a phone. My wife does it all night, and she loves it.
I'm likely to ever forget. You actually think you're the good guy here. Do me a favor. Take a message to your boss.
Wolverine is a happy accident. It has elements that people appreciate, like the little engine that could. The expectations back then were low for movie games, and the game was a surprise to most who played it. It's hard to dislike the character Wolverine, and some people just like crappy, rough things. I actually played this game when it came out. I had borrowed it from my mate. My mate who loved it and told me that at the time that this was way better than God of War. He said it was the best game ever. He also liked big game hunting and didn't like any of the premium Sony exclusives. So take that for what you will. He also had similar taste in movies, B movies. Nothing fancy could sway him, and I really admire that about him. Without him, I would have missed out on a lot of average experiences that I really enjoy the memory of. Interesting, eh? I have all these terrible B horrors. These are horrible, yet why do they exist? And why do I own them? Well, I run an online DVD store from my house, so there is that. So, here is where I hit a wall with this game. It's not because of boredom. This Sentinel boss, which is quite impressive, has a button tapping section that I cannot seem to get past. So I can't do this. I'm using this controller here, so let me just focus on that. I'm using this controller here, and it's a P3 controller. I don't like to use my PlayStation controllers. I don't want to wear them out, the official ones. So I use these cheap ones. So I'm going to try and use this official controller and see if I have a different result. Right, there we go. No, I could have pressed it faster. Okay, I am going to press this. Oh my god. Alright. Ah! Did it? I didn't do it. What the fuck? What is going on? It does say something about dodging, but there's no dodging that happens. Can't be done. I have been tapping this button as fast as I can, but I can't seem to overcome the event. When I fail, I have to do this entire sequence again. I try different controllers, but nothing seems to work. It's obviously not working as it should, and who knows why at this point. And at this point, who cares? I don't remember ever having a problem with it 15 years ago. I remember finishing the game a few times. After an hour of trying, I give up. This game is janky. It has game-breaking bugs, and it is plain ugly. Sometimes the gameplay can feel bland compared with competing titles. So why is this game good? There are a few reasons why. Firstly, for me, Hugh Jackman, it's hard not to like anything that this guy is a part of. He is so incredibly likable, it's not funny. I recently watched Deadpool and Wolverine, and I really was disliking that movie until Hugh came along. Hugh is a straight up grassroots Aussie guy who happens to have a lot of talent. What he represents here is that underlying good that is in Wolverine and somehow is projected even through desperate violence. Gory, blunt violence that retains the best of intentions, that is. Next is the team behind the game. They would have had time constraints, the budget constraints, and moving targets. But it looks as though they also put themselves into the game, which for me is the definition of art and the embodiment of potential. In a similar way you may feel when observing a child's drawing that abstractly is wonderful. Also, the character Wolverine. He is an archetype of a man who has been divorced several times and has developed a drinking problem. A man who has suffered abuse all throughout his life, yet still allows the rose to be embedded into his soul. The violence is fun and hilarious. It gets so extreme, I can imagine the developers laughing their heads off at the absurdity of it. You will too. Thank you so much for sticking to the end, even if you are using this video to go to sleep.